hopefully that.
So we need to make. Don't we need a form to vote for the,
Are you suggesting that you don't have one?
well, there's 3, 4. Oh, no, we do now because we're missing, yeah, so we do. We can move forward. I'm like, oh, I guess we do have a quorum because we're down one. So, yes, so are the changes, do you want to acknowledge the change to the minutes?
Yes, I did make a change, as Samantha requested, and I vote to approve the minutes from, March 29th,
As amended.
as amended.
I will. Oh, Sam second. Aye. All in favor? All right, motion stands. So we've accepted the minutes for the 3:29 minutes. We'll just update that. 2023 on our agenda. And so the first thing we're going to do at today's meeting is get an introduction of the Mid-Coast Wild Ones organization by Kayla. How do you pronounce your last name?
Mackie
It is
Pittman.
Mackie, okay.
Yes.
Mackie Pittman. And they want to share what they do, how their mission may overlap with some of our own work here at the Conservation Commission. And just discuss some opportunities for collaboration and so see where we can go from there.
Definitely. Thank you for having us. We're so glad to be here. I'm one of the co-founders of the chapter, and I'm here with the president, Lynn Rudder. The chapter chartered on Earth Day on Saturday. So I do have a copy of what I'm going to say to pass around. I'll just send those your way. And I'll leave copies as well. Edie, can I have you pass those down? So Wild Ones Mid-Coast, Maine is a native plant gardening group based in Camden, Maine, and serving the Mid-Coast. It's Maine's first chapter of the National Wild Ones organization, which has over 8,000 members and over 100 chapters across 33 states. Wild Ones Mid-Coast Maine's mission is to promote environmentally friendly sound landscaping to preserve biodiversity through the preservation, restoration, and establishment of native plant communities in Mid-Coast Maine. The chapter was founded in February 2023 by 2 Camden residents, a restoration ecologist and an ecological gardener, and incorporated on Earth Day, April 22nd. It's currently under the leadership of its founding board, headed by President Lynn Rudder. The chapter serves Knox, Lincoln, Waldo, and Saginaw counties and welcomes members from across the state and beyond who can join online at midcoastmaine.wildlands.org. We currently have 57 members and are growing rapidly. 28% of current members are Camden residents and 50% of the leadership and board members are Camden residents. The current outreach chair, Marcia Coakley, is available to collaborate on partnerships and ways to support the work of the Conservation Commission. And she can be reached at wildonesmidcoastmaine@gmail.com, which is the chapter's main email address. We would like to offer the Camden Conservation Commission the opportunity to adopt a few statements of support, whatever is at the comfort level, based on what the goals and sort of mission of this commission is as it stands today, in honor of the inaugural Native Plant Month for the state of Maine. So Governor Janet Mills did proclaim April this month as Maine's first Native Plant Month. And to that end, we're asking that the commission support the following statements. First, the Camden Conservation Commission supports native plants and celebrates Maine's inaugural Native Plant Month as recognized by Governor Mills. Second, the commission supports the increased use of native plants in Camden's landscape, including municipal plantings. Third, the commission supports using a minimum of 70% native plants in any landscaped area. Fourth, the commission supports transitioning all municipal plantings that are not already 70% native to a minimum of 70% native plants as soon as feasible. And lastly, when a plant is replaced or added to a planted area, the commission supports that the plant be native, especially if the landscaped area is not already composed of 70% native plants. And this is based on the science of native plants as it relates to ecological preservation and wildlife habitat. But we're here to answer any questions, and we're also open to collaborations and to support the commission's work moving forward. So thank you for having us.
Sure. Are there any questions or concerns or points of comment or discussion on the presentation and specifically towards the statements of support?
Does the natives have to be native to Maine or native to?
The slippery slope question.
I would say that's up to the commission, the definition as defined by you guys.
Because one of the things we talked about is making sure that things we plant are climate adaptive for the changing environment, which sometimes means planting something that not necessarily planting something that's native, but maybe something that's native south of us or, you know,
Or west of us.
Mhm.
Or west of us, yeah.
so, I mean, depending on whatever it is, the plant or, you know, the tree or something, so.
The state decides with their investment policy what you don't sell in nurseries anymore, right? So that's
Yeah.
established.
Right, of course, you never plant in these.
But there are an awful lot of other plants around that can sometimes be invasive and sometimes not. And with climate change, that's going to change. So who's gonna, you were saying, well, the commission can decide what those
Well,
plants are.
it's not 100% the state. The University of Maine Extension works with an office in all the University of Maine Extensions work with an office.
Yeah.
Well, so
It's-
they're working, so and in terms of
They work collaboratively
Kind
to
of-
decide, like, if everything, things don't go from like, being an okay plant to being all of a sudden decided invasive in between time, like. The words about.
we're talking about native plants and the supporting the use of native plants here. It's not that invasive plants don't have a relationship or, you know, too, but
Yeah.
so, but I think that what's important is that we put the emphasis or the focus on the native plant discussion, because the invasives is like a whole, those are already non-native.
Yeah, I tend to put the two together
Yeah.
in my head, and I've got to cut that out.
Yeah.
But the
I'm partly-
climate aspect really disturbs me about what's native, and you might have to change every year what you think is going on, and who decides that?
So, right, so it is a little, you can talk about endemic to Maine, but then again, it's a time frame. So again, it's a bit of a slippery slope, but there are parameters for northeastern North American native plants that stand 100 and 1,000-year timelines that are irrelevant and irregardless, like totally human scale, not
Yeah,
not necessary. We have amazing botanists, horticulturists, ecologists, ethnobotanists, et cetera. Climate resiliency, there's a number of professors right here at the UMaine Climate Institute that are doing work that are able to put large numbers of northeastern North American natives in Maine pre and post sort of our human migration timeframe. So it's a kind of slippery slope, but there's a pretty substantial and tangible list of plants that are native that few professionals would argue over time for a large, number of.
yeah, and people are watching it as it moves too, so that's very reassuring.
Yeah, and yeah.
So is the question here, sorry, is the question then how would we want to, well, first of all, thank you for coming to our meeting, Kayla, and Lynn. It's really nice to see both of you, and I love what you're doing. And I do think it makes sense to define native either in a footnote or, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be a fixed definition, but I do like the idea of saying native to, Northeast or whatever, and then as defined by, so, the extension or whatever resource we would want to refer to that would be a constantly evolving resource, just so there's some direction as to what the meaning is there. And then secondarily, I don't know if native inherently means non-cultivar. or if we would also want to have any commentary on that. That's my question.
My response to that was that it would be up to the commission how you define native. Those are good points.
I think there's a sort of a bigger picture too, in that, you know, we could support as a conservation commission, support these statements. But I was kind of wishing Dave St. Laurent
Yeah.
here, our public works
He
director.
just couldn't be here.
We don't have, yeah, and that's fine, 'cause we can address them, I think, on a one-by-one basis, because.
Yeah, I think because Dave, you know, the public works does a lot of the planting, tree planting especially, and also, I don't know about the parks department, but, so we. Then budget wise and department wise, I think, you know, whether they could, you know, the public works department, for instance, would follow through with some of this stuff or, yeah, I think there's just a bigger picture there and separate, you know, moving parts as well that, would have to be figured in.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Right, we don't have any authority, right? So it would just be sort of encouragement to, yeah.
Yeah.
But supporting things, I mean, that's how it gets to the
The next
Right.
level.
next level, and I do think it's turned into something that can be somewhat actionable, because looking at, like, just the street trees, for instance, there have been really interesting, I'm not a plant expert really at all, so I just sort of listen to what everybody else says. But it's been interesting to watch on the sidelines as people who really are experts argue about which trees should be planted in, you know, the street, which is an environment that's not really like the forest that the settlers would have encountered, and what's going to live and what's going to die. And Dave St. Laurent sits there sometimes and he's like, okay, so what are we going to plant? And sometimes it's like there's so much disagreement about that it's the tree doesn't get planted. And then I've seen people on Facebook saying, oh, well, it's just such a shame that the town didn't plant a, you know, native tree on that corner. And, you know, I'd really like to, but I wish I did have a quick way of saying, here's the process they went through. You know, a lot of thought went into choosing this honey locust, and we're not sure that there would have been a better alternative here, but maybe some of it too is people's, you know, the town really has a very limited amount of planting that we do, but there are, you know, all these other landscapes that people own. But having it be something that you can look and see it's on this list or it's not, would be good. Like the definition of native, you know, referring to whatever experts think is a good, oh my gosh, sorry.
Well, we do have a plant list for trees for this year, and they're all natives.
They were not exclusively natives, but they were
All
at
climate
least
adapted,
about 70% native.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they were all climate adapted for this area, so that we're gonna put the trouble planting them, they should be living for.
The garden club does a lot of like little kind of, what do you, are you in the garden club? Is there any talk, how much? Have you talked to the garden club yet, or?
I haven't, not maybe, but, that's the same idea there, too, is to be predominantly native plants or say that climate adapted. So if they're gonna go through the trouble and expense of planting a tree, they want it to be there for a long time.
Mhm.
And, you know, no Norway maples or things like that just take over. So, no offense, but even if it's a place that,
Yeah. So, is it reasonable for us to go through each one of these, statements of support and sort of be able to comfortably either adopt them or, you know, or state that we need to, you know, have further discussion with the party, you know, if you could state or for obvious reasons, and we.
support it here.
Yeah, we can even support the idea, but just at least with the understanding that it's gonna be our role in terms of advising and educating, and that the timeline is gonna be longer.
So I would ask for, just because I wasn't aware that we would be presented with this today. I would ask for some time, and I don't even have a copy of it in front of me, that we could look at it independently and just ponder it and mull it. I am thoroughly in support of the idea of making a public statement in this regard. I just would like some time. So perhaps we could plan to vote on it at the next meeting. I don't know, is that reasonable or?
It's totally reasonable. Brian's not here and David's not here to add his input.
Yeah.
But I think I'd like to just quickly address them as a committee directly to the representatives from Wild Ones today. I think it makes good sense. So we have an understand, so at least you can hear some of
Oh,
what
sure.
where we're at with it. I can quickly email it to you, Sam.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You want to
And
see?
is there an agenda I missed? Is there an agenda?
Yeah, that's what's probably what you're missing.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone can even take a photograph of it and just text it to me. That'd be great.
Hang on.
Rebecca's gonna email it to you right
Oh,
now.
thank you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I do have a question though, like if we do adopt and support these statements, is this something that will be then on, say, your website that says, oh, the Camden Conservation Commission, also supports these statements?
That would be a decision for Lynn and our outreach chair, but I believe the chapter would be more than happy and would naturally promote that for the commission.
In hopes that other
Awesome.
towns would follow your lead. You'll be the leaders.
And I'll say that the timeliness of this is that April, and it's the 27th, so it's the end of the month, is Maine's inaugural Native Plant Month, which is why we're here in this month. So there's a concerted effort in this month especially to be part of the statewide effort to support native plants publicly. So that's the timeliness of doing something this month for the commission, if it's something the commission is comfortable with, and if it's not at odds or controversial at all.
I see. Okay.
Is it something, can we vote over email? Is something we could take a shorter period of time to look at than, a month until our next meeting? So the other members of the committee could see it, and is it possible to do a vote over email on something like this?
I don't know what the sort of the legal. I'm not sure what that means.
By that, what do they say? If it's by consensus, if it's unanimous, I think is what it changed a little bit during COVID, but it would be similar to the letters that you've agreed to send out.
Right.
As long as it's not, since it's just probably would get to the point where maybe it would be recommending it to the select board, that the select board would adopt it too. So there would be a public discussion there. That's what I generally think should probably be preparing for, would be to educate yourselves enough and come up with something that then you could say to the select board. I think that would be an opportunity to educate the larger public a little bit.
Makes sense.
Okay, but yeah, I don't see any reason why you couldn't talk about it here and then finish the language or the vote of it over email.
You mentioned the kind of discussions that people have over trees and native and non-native and all that, which slows things down and maybe something doesn't happen. I think you should be cautious about sort of publicly signing on to something and then expecting that there won't be pushback. By what happens is people think, oh, now this is right, now what I'm doing in my yard is wrong, and it bubbles and it comes up and you get people mad at you. You could just do it. And
Oh, I mean,
This
this is kind of low stakes compared to,
if you feel it's really low key,
we're taking on piers and dams and. I have some Rosa rugosas in my driveway area that I transplanted there only like 4 years ago before I was educated, so I can sympathize with people who are.
People take it very personally, and if you say something's wrong and they feel that they must be in the wrong, then when they push back. And they don't need to take it personally. Nobody's saying
I
you're
had to think
going
about
into
it.
their yards.
I just,
No.
I'm here.
yeah, well, I was thinking of.
Encourage people to think about it more, you know, I think it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, we got a great conversation.
I would say, hey, that's so loud, but it doesn't make it really hard for people on Zoom.
Okay.
If multiple conversations are.
Just, yeah,
Thank you.
although Lynn, I just,
So Dave, to get you quickly up to speed, Wild Ones is here representing, in their mission statement and request for statements of support on native plants. We were gonna at least kind of quickly in an appropriate way, overview each of their statements, of support and just make comment now and decide if we can do this vote for support online or how we have to approach it, I guess, to allow for some time to process. So the first statement is that, again, the Conservation Commission supports native plants and celebrates Maine Inaugural Native Plant Month as recognized by Governor Mills. Are you waving your hand, Sam? or-
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull up the document. I've got the agenda up and I'm trying to get the other thing up. I'm just going to print some stuff and then run back so I can, I'm just on my iPad, sorry.
It's okay. What it looked more like a waving hand from this end, so I was, okay, hang on. I would could think that we could,
What
It's-
month?
it's in April,
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's no really concern there. I think that's a straightforward statement of support and doesn't impact anything, just. And Sam will have to answer, but I don't see any issues there. The commission supports the increased use of native plants in Camden landscape, including municipal plantings. Again, supporting an increased use of native plants at large is certainly something that the commission, it aligns with the work that the commission does and whether it's climate adaptive or wildlife support or shoreline, buffer plantings, et cetera. Yes.
I want to know what makes a plant native, because it depends on how far back you go, right?
It does. Yeah, we actually just had this discussion, so
Oh, all right. So
we will have to.
You can fill me in on.
It's not resolved. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm a hawk.
Maine and Maine Natural Heritage and the Maine Natural Areas Program, and we will come up with a already working and as defined by the state of Maine in some way, shape or form, and
So it doesn't exist now then?
yeah, there are others in place.
Okay,
So
I will say
there's
that
just a result.
it is, and I had mentioned that would be up to the commission to define that for
Mhm.
itself. I will say that the governor issued a proclamation making this native plant month without defining it.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm like, what is exactly, what is native plants in there, in this?
Well, I say that to the point of, I don't think that it needs to necessarily be defined in order for these statements to be adopted at this
No,
point.
no, I'm just curious, because,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I want to know.
I mean, the statements can be adopted, but in order to be effective in
Enforced,
any way,
yeah,
or not
or followed.
enforced even, but
Follow.
for the town to take any action.
Right,
We
the-
can't have people
further.
telling Parks and Rec to do some research isn't gonna
No.
be.
No, plant lists can be
Right.
provided and.
And I have another question, so
Yep.
as a native plant can be an invasive plant too, right?
Nope,
No.
No,
nope,
really?
correct.
I love
It can be
Oh, I'll
aggressive.
take you to the.
Or we're gonna call it something else.
I can scientifically, unrefutably take you down on that one.
I know, but I mean, it's not, we're not, because invasive means it's displacing a native species, right? But I
It's
mean,
not native.
Right.
It is non-native and it is out competing the native population of plants in said area, and it is disrupting the biodiversity. It is disrupting the economy of
right,
human
Human
and ecological economy. And it could also have a human health impact. Those are the
Right,
definitions, and that can be,
but a native species can do that too, but it's
Nope.
not
no,
invasive,
it's
right?
not invasive.
Yeah.
It's not considered.
Yeah, a native species can be annoying,
Right.
but it's
Well,
not invasive.
What's the word you use for a native species that has all the attributes of an?
They don't have 100%.
Uh,
Listen,
What's
it's gonna
the
happen.
year that you go to for native, like
I don't know, because I'm not.
being
Okay.
things that were here with
Let's see.
zero human intervention or?
I go pre-colonial.
Beech trees are native. Nobody says they're not. They're very sick and they are adapting. And what they are doing is sending out runners and establishing little beach
Yes.
colonies, just like the black locust does, whether it's considered native or not. But
Birch can do that too.
I mean, native, it's been here a long time, the black locust has. So here's beech trees going viral. And forestry department's gonna probably decide they're invasive. They're not probably gonna be classified that way, but they're behaving that way.
That's kind of what I was trying to imply.
Yeah. So it's gonna
Colonial
happen.
species, things that spread by runners or rhizomes or stolons or anything, or trees that can create colonies, that is ecological or evolutionary adaptive technique. That doesn't mean that that's how that their species survives. That doesn't mean that they are actually out competing. I've never been in a 100% beech forest anywhere in New England. Like, that's not how.
No, but you look at a white birch can do that, you know, I mean, they can take over a whole area and then there'll just be all these
But
little.
they take over, they only do that for a few decades.
Right.
Because they're early succession species. They
Right,
immediately.
they're pioneer
have something.
species,
Yeah,
right?
and that's right. So
Right.
that's a completely different ecological conversation and adaptation. in
This
species.
has not been finalized.
No, so.
We'll discuss this.
Here you go, Kayla, welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting.
These conversations are exactly the right thing to be happening.
Right.
And these conversations also happen internally in the native plant.
I know, I mean-
So this is great. This is exactly the point.
I mean,
Yeah.
Are black locusts the ones with the thorns?
yeah,
The ones that we really like?
the ones
that are not
I
supposed to
like
be?
it, but everybody hates it, but I love it.
I didn't know there was an argument. Interesting.
I just suggest that this is what will happen in the town, not that we don't want to do it, but
No, this is a
having
good
even a
thing.
percentage might be a little bit iffy. No.
You don't have to worry about everybody's skin. I mean, go on committee to make decisions, and some people have their feelings hurt. Oh, well.
You still have 30% here to go wild and do whatever. That's like.
Right.
All right, well,
But
that-
30%.
yeah, because it was 70%,
Okay.
so 30% invasive.
Pleasures of black locusts and whatever else.
So we're getting well beyond their time and ours for this discussion, and we're gonna have to obviously have it further. I can't guarantee you a full adoption. So what we did say was the commission, so we talked, I want to go through 3, 4, and 5 quickly, at least acknowledge it again before we wrap this up. But the commission supports using a minimum of 70% native plants in any landscaped area. I felt it was important to acknowledge both in the first 2 and in this one, we have a street tree list that is, I don't know if it's exactly 70%, but it's
I bet it's pretty
heavily.
close. It's pretty close. Yeah, we didn't even try to do that and it ended up that way. Thanks to whoever gave you the list. You guys gave me the list, right?
Curated the list and
Yeah.
I gave it a quick.
I was 30%. I think I added the 30%.
So, and that was done in December. These are a couple of the things that were added. I'll give that to you guys just so you see some of what we got on there. And then I wanted to, have Barb acknowledge the work that the garden club is doing, on town's,
Public landing.
town properties. So
Oh, I guess.
I know, I have.
please share, because this is relevant to this
Well,
third statement.
The public landing is gonna have a big, what's the word called? Facelift, renovation.
Renovation.
So the plants in front of the bathrooms going out. The lilacs are staying, but they were heavily pruned. There's a bunch of invasive type bushes are coming out and we're replanting mostly natives, not exclusively, but mostly natives in those areas. And then, there's gonna be some new boxes across.
Have you been down there at all lately?
Yesterday, yeah. And, there's new boxes that had some natives, had some invasive plants in it, and those were taken out and replaced with something more permanent with predominantly natives. And then there's another area that's gonna be built into a, what do they call this? Another little park. It's kind of a high blue you can burn, sloping property that supposedly the people who are renting those stores are supposed to take care of, but never really did. So that the town kind of reclaimed the land and we're gonna upgrade it to make it so shady-ish area for, and with nice benches. Kindergarten Club put in a grant application to get some nice benches like that they have over at Harbor Park from. I remember. They're really nice high-end like benches, so that people who need a cool shady place to sit down can rest, and they're gonna develop all that too. So there's lots of things going on down there.
Did you see
Where?
you're looking-
Is it the post office?
I don't know where it went.
The public landing.
Public
Oh,
landing.
the landing, excellent.
Yeah, so there's, by the end of the summer, that place is gonna be pretty awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would be a great test of what likes to be there.
It's funny, you guys, so we pulled the boxes out, right?
Yeah,
And I'm gonna put, so where the crab apples were,
Yeah.
I'm gonna plant 2 other trees. But they were planted in those boxes and I never thought of this because that pretty much goes underwater periodically. And
next
it's,
underwater,
oh yeah, that, the water,
Oh,
high
yeah.
tide will
go over there.
will go all the way up to there, so. I didn't think about this until I ripped the boxes out that, all right, now I'm gonna dig a hole and I want to put the tree in the ground, right? And then I'm gonna put 2 granite flower boxes on each side of the trees for you, for the plantings. But will a tree species be able to survive a periodic dunking in salt water? Well, I mean, apparently.
Some do.
The Olmsted plan, we talked about this a little bit, said, talked all about this, and they said a hawthorn will survive that kind of environment. And that's kind of the right shape and size tree that we want to put in there. So I think that's what I'm gonna put there. I'm gonna put a hawthorn, 2 granite flower boxes on each side, and then another hawthorn, 2 flower boxes where the old boxes were. Then you'll be able to put your stuff in
Yeah,
the granite box. So that's the plan.
That's what the Olmsteds wanted until the Camden Garden Club intervened with,
Of the time.
at the time, yes, sorry. This whole back, have you seen that, where they go back and forth about,
that stuff.
the Olmsteds were like, well, I see your list of trees that you want to plant,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
seem
They're in the
not well
field.
suited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as floriferous.
Mhm.
So
They wanted a bunch of oak trees down there too, but.
3/5 of the way there, you know, and then the other 2. The commission supports transitioning the municipal plantings that are not 70% native to a minimum, as soon as feasible. Again, we're doing some projects now and we're working on including more natives, but I think that this statement, as well as the latter, or the last one is, requires more discussion with David and the Parks and Rec and other, the groups that are actually doing plantings and actually maintaining.
You should have seen those rugosa roots. It was incredible. I was like, I don't know, I'm.
and they kind of keep coming back after a while, so you can just stay on top of it.
I know.
For a few years, but eventually, yeah, they're nasty.
Sam, did you get everything okay?
I did, thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what happened in the previous thing.
And I just did want to mention quickly also that Dave gave, well, me, and then I enlisted Barb to plant around the Camden sign that's across from Hannaford. And so that is, we're gonna try to put all natives there. We're gonna see, so,
Wonderful.
yeah, so that's in the works as well.
Well, I will say on behalf of the chapter, and again, I'm not part of the board, I'm sure the chapter would be happy to support all of these efforts. And they're currently, as a new chapter, developing the programs that they're going to do for the upcoming year. So it sounds like they would definitely be in support and could offer help should you want it.
Yes.
Are you guys planning on looking at all at other types of more ecologically friendly landscaping? One of the things we've talked about a little bit in the commission, sort of starting as part of the private peer discussion, but then was extending to armored shorelines and kind of the negative impacts of that and the alternatives and soft landscaping techniques with plants rather than building up, walls along our entire coastline. Or is that something that kind of stuff, something you touched on at all, or?
The new chapter with one meeting under its belt, we haven't discussed it as an agenda item, but it's definitely on topic for what the mission is of the chapter. And I think, again, the outreach chair would be the person to ask specifics about that too. But I can say unequivocally with Lynn that yes, that's something it would definitely support.
I've been trying to take my drone and document the whole shoreline and get to different places. And I was thinking, and I was doing some research in other communities, they've organized like shoreline walks. And wouldn't it be, I haven't even ever walked the entire shoreline of Camden. But if we could do like a joint thing where the Camden Rockport Conservation Commissions or something would try to walk the shoreline of both of our towns.
Or paddle. I'm guessing you're not gonna get.
Well, there's, right, I mean, try to paddle too, but the point being that there was a time when there were more beaches, and with sea level rise, we're losing a lot of our beaches. And then when you have people armoring their shorelines and filling in, there are places that become, submerged all the time when they would have before been accessible. And you don't always get a sense of the impact of these new structures unless you're, walking along and sort of trying to access that. So anyway, just a little plug for that. It would be a fun thing to.
So before these ladies leave us, I want to make sure that they have a clear understanding of where we're going to go with this. It's sort of at the request of Sam, if I'm following the line correctly, we would like time to just review these statements of support and then vote online. And if we're a majority, I can follow up. And then, so if it's, there was a timeliness in terms of your inaugural month of the native plants and the inaugural chapter. So I would be respectful and ask that we do this in a 48-ish hour time frame or less, and then we can let you know kind of where we stand on these 5 statements and go from there. Am I correct in that?
That sounds great to me. I would think just as long as we can get this draft out to the remainder of the committee, such as they are, and explain, what happened today, and maybe suggest they look at the YouTube, at least this part of the conversation, and then we could have a dialogue over email with all of us. Yeah, and I don't need a lot of time. I just wanted a chance to read it, and I would definitely, because we would be representing the commission and sort of making a public statement, I do feel that we should have unanimous, at least participation, if not support, and I think really support for this before moving forward.
I think that's totally reasonable, and I'm sure that Brian would be appreciative of being included.
Yep.
All right, so I think that is sort of where we stand, and we appreciate you guys coming and the work that you're doing, and I'm a founding member, so I obviously support that. So I would suggest, we support this statement.
I mean to join. I should join. I need to do that. I'll join. I just need to fill out whatever it is.
I'm already on record, I nudged. Oh, good for you, see there.
Oh, wow.
So-
Now you guys have to disclose your conflict of interest.
Nope.
Well, thank you very much for having us. I think, are you going to stay? I need to leave, but thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And
And you are welcome, especially of being on another conservation commission, if you want to like.
I have a little time.
Here,
so,
see
okay,
what we're
I'll
doing,
stay.
and if it's not go, I understand, so.
I didn't get everyone's name. I'm sorry.
Mark.
Barb, okay?
And Lisa.
Yeah.
You know Rebecca.
Yeah, my name will be
I'm just sitting here.
Allison, okay.
So if there are any materials here, please see Lynn, and we also have an email sign up as well. Thank you, Rebecca. for
You're
having me.
welcome. Sam is in the
Thank you.
red online. She's on our conservation
Yes.
commission as well.
Nice to see you.
Also, I'm Amy Thompson. I just wanted to say hi. I'm in Texas and I am a member of Wild Ones.
Amy is
Hi,
the
Amy.
other co-founder of the chapter.
I met Ava. I couldn't get the name to the face for the moment. I was like, I'm struggling.
Amy, nice to see you.
Good to see everyone.
Thank you very much.
Right. So now that we're a little behind,
Me too.
the select board liaison updates, is there anything we want to know or need to know about what happened in the last?
I have questions after the report, if any.
Okay,
That's for the,
about the, I'm not sure.
for the select board, a question.
I think so. I think you're the liaison, I would ask.
Go for it.
Grievances, questions.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've been wondering for a while about the status of comprehensive planning in the town, and this is relevant to conservation because that is something that will be considered in the plan. And I feel like I think there was I may have noted a while back. I don't know whether the town's in the process of selecting the comprehensive planning committee. Given the timeline of the last comprehensive planning process, that should have started, I believe, last year, the way it worked last time. And so I think it's every 5 years. And I don't remember the timeline, but I do know that if we were on the typical timeline, the committee would already be forming. And I just don't know if any of that's happening or who does that.
What a great question, Samantha. Because I'm gonna sound like probably some kind of municipal official broken record, but it matters so much, the comprehensive plan. And
Yeah.
we missed a lot I would say there were a lot of missed opportunities the last round because there wasn't enough engagement. I believe that one was done voted on in 2019, or is it 2016?
17 or 17.
So it's every 10 years is the state
Right.
requirement.
Okay.
But you can make updates to the comprehensive plan outside of that, full redo process. In fact, the watershed school a few years ago, their climate change class asked for like a project that would be good to do, and they wrote a chapter that was proposed for an addition to the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
And I actually kind of think we should probably just be trying to get that voted on, just even though it could be improved a lot, it would be, a lot of the stuff they put there would be better than to have in our comprehensive plan than not have anything right now. So
Right.
the answer is no, the town really isn't doing anything right now, but
Okay.
it would be a good thing to start thinking about. I'm gonna have to check on those dates.
Yeah,
because
I had written a sort of chunk of a memo about it at one point, and I think it was actually in our reply to the harbor committee, but then I took it out before I sent it, and I had worked out all the dates and the reason it's of interest or concern to me at this time. And I can't find that information. So I will look it up again and email you, or should I email the entire select board, or should I email Jeremy and copy you? Like what would be the appropriate way to raise this issue in a way that I can get a response once I've presented what I understand to be the situation and an accurate, like a pointed question?
I'll bring it up at the select board meeting during my liaison report.
Okay.
As a topic of conversation. It looks like it was last updated 2017.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Right?
So that was one question. I may follow up with you over email about that. When's the next select board meeting, just so I can get to you before then?
Is it on Tuesday?
Like next week?
May 2nd?
Okay, fine. So I'll follow up. My other question is related to any sort of climate resilience planning that the town might be doing. There are ample grant and funding opportunities for coastal resilience, climate resilience planning. I definitely think that the town should have a full consideration of those issues when they're doing either separate from the comprehensive planning process or as part of it. There's funding available. So it's, I mean, there's, I think are consultants that could do this. I don't know who to talk to about that either. But I sort of feel like I keep sort of putting the question out there and not getting an answer. And I would like to, I don't know if it's something's happening that I don't need to know about, or if nothing's happening.
So I would say that we've been very, very successful in getting grants. We have preliminary and a preliminary award for $1.6 million for the McGonagall watershed coastal resilience stuff, which includes Harbor Park. And the issue is that we also seem to have at least a portion of our population that is really, really motivated to work against any of the recommendations that come out of this process. So we're in the process right now of answering questions for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, because after awarding us that funding, as part of, we were one of 7 projects in the country that were qualified for this fast track kind of pipeline funding, because we already went through a feasibility study and now we're in this detailed design phase. So that's been slowed down because they got bombarded by anonymous letters, threats of lawsuits. And so they're just trying to do a minor review process right now to make sure that they're kind of prepared to answer. So that is, we got another grant from the Maine Coastal Program. We've been really successful in getting grants because Camden faces a lot of challenges and we have a lot of opportunities that check all of those boxes. But the process of public outreach to explain that, the study found that we shouldn't have a vertical seawall that's 15 feet tall. We should have a more, hybrid natural shoreline that, might lose a little bit of a park here and gain some more here. It's just been crippling to us a little bit, because people show up at every select board meeting and they say what a tragedy it is that we would change anything about, certain areas. So
right.
I think that the town, probably town staff right now, I know I get a little bit of this reaction when people say, oh, there are all these grants available. Yeah. Yes, there are, but the amount of time it takes to manage the implementation and the pushback is really overwhelming.
Right.
So I think because it's like you get the grant funding, but then you don't have the additional staff time that's necessary. Some of the grants have gotten better in terms of not having such a significant match required. But I think where the Conservation Commission can be helpful is paying attention to the grants that we have been awarded and being maybe a little bit more proactive with that, because there's so much that can be incorporated into, we got $1.6 million just for planning and design for it can include everything from the Riverwalk to the public landing and to make the watershed more resilient. And then they'll give us up to 10 million for the implementation phase. So, but whether or not we continue to qualify for this stuff, I think depends on kind of whether we demonstrate that as a town, we can get to that like shovel-ready
Right,
place.
Right.
And I mean, Camden is famous for doing, I think most towns probably are, for studying things and putting it on the shelf.
okay,
So how we can kind of act with a little bit more urgency and overcome tension. I think that's where we need, the town staff aren't gonna want to apply for many more grants
right,
until we can feel like we can manage the ones that we have. Because it's just a lot of education that has to happen, when so much kind of needs to change.
Right. Well, this is really helpful. It sounds like I need to educate myself further on the watershed grant because I had sort of internalized that that was a whole separate thing that was specific to the river and the dams. And it wasn't in any way, I mean, I didn't realize there was any sort of comprehensive, that maybe it touches other areas. So I'll look at that. And then I had also internalized, with no one saying it to me, that we're not involved with the river and dams issue because there's a separate group that's dealing with that. And so it's not something that we really end up talking about at our meetings. And perhaps it is something we should be talking about. I had put into my mind that that wasn't our purview for some reason because this other group had been formed for the town. So I'll read up on that.
That has happened a little bit, but,
More by default than by design.
yeah, I mean, we're all kind of trying to figure out what makes sense, and I think partially, that, you know, that committee was formed because the select board was feeling anxiety partially, and that I, you know, as liaison to the Conservation Commission, was trying to give a, you know, maybe not be so personally involved myself.
Right.
Because I'm so involved, but I think that's probably a mistake for the Conservation Commission to not be really, you know, paying attention to it and advocating some too, because what I've seen happen on the River Committee is there are, you know, different groups that are coming and presenting and providing comments and telling the River Committee or the Citizens Advisory Committee what they should be paying attention to. So, you know, it's just like us when we're sitting around and trying to talk about peers and all the different aspects of it. It's trying to gather all the different things to think about is, it's like the topic of a thesis or something. So it's, we shouldn't just assume that, oh, all these people on the Citizens Advisory Committee can just automatically know all the things that are in the Conservation Commission brings. So yeah, I think that would be the thing to focus on right now, because just looking up the National Coastal Resilience Fund, it's, you know, they give funding for all the types of projects, especially for, you know, for coastal communities, for projects that increase a community's resilience to climate change and restore habitat for native species. So nature-based solutions is their big thing, finding ways that, you know, we can work with nature and not against it to benefit people and the environment. So it's, I mean, it's, there's so much money available, and we could be even applying to expand the scope of what we do through that program a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, just familiarizing yourself with that specific grant program.
I will. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you for asking that question too. That's
Was that your only, your last question?
I mean,
comment?
I have a couple more. I'll save it for a month from now.
Okay, but
We're not
my last
pressing.
thing follows this is the connects to this conversation, and that I was saving for the other business, but it's completely tangible. So I mentioned, several months ago, I was asked by, Jeremy and Shenley to participate as a CONSCOM member, you know, point of contact, on the coastal resiliency training. And, so I attended the first, group. It was pretty much an all day. It's like 5-6 hours. It was the bulk of the day. planning forward. And it was Gulf of Maine Research Institute, Island Institute, the Mid-Coast or government. No, it's like they call them MCOG, but what is the Council of Governments and Planning?
Yeah.
Thank you. An acronym, sorry. And then we had a representative from TNC who's working on coastal strategies for nature-based solutions, was here mostly as listening and kind of taking in what each town, so what's been going on. So the Meg Rasmussen from the MCOG has been working with the mid-coast coastal communities, and they've put together an amazing kind of workshop planning activity and guidance, and they're showing the latest data, which is starting to get a little dated, but it's still relevant, still relevant. And we literally worked through strategies. So we had somebody from planning board there, we had somebody, so we had Jeremy was there for part of the day, Shenley was there all day with us, so we had somebody from planning. And then we had two other town members who I don't know what their actual town, other than that they're residents, I don't know what their affiliation was with other particular town groups, or they were citizens at large that were kind of brought in. But Jim is a retired Marine engineer and has worked.
Oh, Jim Bennett.
Yep, and then we had Joe, and he is a marine forecaster for NOAA, and so these were no slouches at the
Joe
table, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And Courtney, who is on the Megunticook River. What's her
Mhm.
name? Courtney. Yep, her. I only wrote first names down, because that's all we wrote on our name tag. And so she's got a background in sustainable development, so it was really a pretty, for all intents and purposes, kind of a powerhouse group of like different professionals, all kind of having some work within the environmental professional field, and I brought something pretty relevant and unique to the table, besides the fact that we were all here by default or by design, in terms of being, choosing to live in Camden and the Mid-Coast region, having lived elsewhere. So it was a great session. We did a lot of, like I said, role playing and trying to use limited funding with really low brow or high brow, type of impacts, the 100-year storm, 50-year storm. We've already spent money on, we've already voted a bill on, for improving the schools and other municipal things. We've already bonded and, done this and that. So we've got X amount of dollars. And so it was helpful for everybody to just recognize that it's not a quick fix. It's not going to happen, in 5 years. And, what you think you might be able to do, everything you're supposed to do now is in a governmental and limited resource, time, people, money, all of it is, we've got to be patient and we've got to prioritize and look at the data, look at each site specific thing. And then the one thing that I was really pleased with our group in particular was recognizing that here in the Mid-Coast, we can, and particularly in the town of Camden, we've got a lot of opportunity to leverage the skill set and to leverage, the success of things like the NOAA grant and other, climate resilient related work that's been or is being done. But to realize that even though our staff is limited here, and we have a fairly substantial staff for, for the town and its size, that, a part-time one person staff in South Thomaston, literally the whole town, is not going to be able to amplify the efforts that may need to on their coastline. And so that doing partner grants and looking at ways of doing larger regional scoped efforts might be another avenue to look at over the next 5 and 10 and 15-year planning timeframe going forward, to whether they're for small scale household things or they're for large scale, full coastline thing. So anyways, it was a great day, and yes, there is funding out there. But again, I was pleased to hear that, this group, as government involved and quiet nonprofit kind of niche things that they were doing, were definitely in support of actionable items. I think that that's really the way when we talk about some of the education outreach that we need to have tangible things happening for the town residents to see in tangible ways that may impact their own neighborhoods or their own properties. So ways that we can help improve the climate resiliency on small and large scales, and ways that we as commissions and or towns can share the education and outreach to help, understand that, rain gardens and bioswales and green coastline or shoreline, infrastructure does make a difference, and that each one, piece of the puzzle kind of is part of the whole type thing, is probably should be integrated in the short term to gain some ground for the long term, larger, more potentially controversial projects. So if they see those little things adding up, they'll see how something larger, more expensive and scarier might be, helpful. So that was my report on that training. There'll be more, there'll be another gathering, and then there'll be with the smaller groups together. And then there'll be some type of sort of public or other forum that we'll use to share the data and the resources as this thing unfolds. But it was a really, really well put together. They did a really good job getting the data and the slides and really making it both informative and sort of tangible.
What region, was that at Rockport, at the Rockport town?
Right here in this
Oh,
room.
so they're approaching each town separately then,
Yeah,
okay. 'cause
yeah,
we have the
yours
same
should be,
thing.
yeah, did you have it?
We did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so they're gonna take that information, compile it, and then they will bring us all together for the next phase, I think. So, yeah, we can talk about kind of.
And do you have a follow-up at Flatbread tonight? The climate resiliency meeting? I don't know if maybe it's more Rockport than it is.
No, it's the same people that did the hatchery event last month. They have their annual event tonight at Flatbread in Rockport. And I think it's 5 to 7, is that right? I might go if I can deal with my son.
News to me, so.
That's just that thing. Don't they do it every month?
Yes. Yeah, it's just like a networking gathering of people involved in climate work in the area. So
Okay.
I'll forward everyone the information about it. Let's see.
Oh, one other grant actually that we are in the midst of, I forgot, is the silver, it's the US Army Corps. People reached out to Jeremy and I a few weeks ago, and it's the Silver Jackets High Water Mark program, where they find like historical high water marks and then put signage in places and with information about what that would look like under sea level rise scenarios. So generally they use like the storm of record is the 1978 storm, and they have it all marked out in many communities where the water rose to for that storm. It was actually really on this call that we were on, it was kind of impressive, the number of different groups that were involved. And they actually asked me, I could send it to, it might not be too late to get Rockport involved, but it's a partnership between USGS, FEMA, EPA, MDOT, NOAA, Army Corps, so it's their division of the Division of Army Corps that's involved in non-structural solutions to sea level rise.
And they were looking for the highest, reviewing what the
They
highest.
already have like where the, I could just share my screen really quick if, so can you see that, Samantha?
Yes.
Really not anymore, right? Here, Bolton. So it's like this kind of thing where, I guess they did it in Belfast. Or it's not a grant, they just help you do it, but they go out and they talk to the community apparently, and then they put up signs like this.
Could we do that like down at the town landing?
Yeah, I think it may be at 3 different places.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't actually just have to be sea level rise, it can be like river flooding too. But when that gets kicked off, they basically were a group of people or a bunch of agencies that were gonna apply for funding to implement in this area. So they wanted to make sure that we were supportive of it. But it was, anyway, I'll forward that.
Yeah.
If you reach out like right away and say Rockport's really interested, they might be able to get you in. So.
So you don't need anything from us on that. That's just it's just in progress and
Yeah, just so you know.
Happening. That's cool. Very cool.
Excellent. So we haven't completely given up on like new funding opportunities.
Is there anything else that we should know about, or shall we move to the next? Good, okay. Dave? Yeah, no, that's the next, yeah. So Dave, do you have street tree or stormwater or public landing projects or that you want to touch on?
So contacted Aaron Weston from CAI about our stormwater app. Seems to be a glitch with the maintenance side of it. So when we do all the catch basins, the guy goes around, takes photos and like puts comments in. There's some things that haven't been finalized. I just need to go over that with him. I wanted to also talk about with him the redundancy in the tree app. So you can, if you open the tree app, you can see like there's multiple, like we talked to, like if you look at, there's like several of the same things over and over again, you know, and one will say that it's a potential tree location, and one will say that it's a tree planted location. So it really should just have tree planted.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't need all of those other things in there. It seems like whenever somebody goes and maybe they go and talk to a homeowner or something, they'll go and put it in that they talk to a homeowner. It creates like another part to that location, which we don't want.
Right.
So I want somehow to be able to filter that out so there's less of that stuff in there. So when you go and click the one, it's the one on the tree and not multiple ones that you have to go through. The trees are all in and they're over at Plants Unlimited. So we have all of our trees. We're gonna start planting those real soon. I'm looking at hiring an actual person to replace the person that is left. He's actually an arborist. So I'm gonna have him help me with some of the trees, which, you know, he's worked as an arborist for almost 20 years. So he's worked for Lucas Tree and he worked for Tree Works. So that'll be helpful. I haven't hired him yet though, so.
Right, so
Yeah, you better.
This is-
It's being live streamed.
This is hopeful. This is hopeful. He just called me over the meeting.
Very transparent here.
right.
So Ordered the trees, we need to start planting the trees, the app has been being looked at in the next couple of weeks. And then the other thing is the public landing, I talked about, we pulled those boxes out to get and build the wharf, so we poured a whole new concrete slab over there and put aggregate underneath and put the cloth, it came out really nice. And they built the whole new wharf on top, so now we're in the process of taking the material out between the wharf and about 30 feet. 25 feet, depending on the section, all along the front of the wharf and in front of the harbor master shack, all the way to Peter Roth's. So, and then we're gonna repave that whole section. And part of that is fixing, so there'll be like, the pavement will go almost up to the wharf and there'll be a little bit of stone, so the water can go in.
Yeah,
We put a catch basin on the corner.
nice.
So the water, we're gonna regrade that, so there's all these puddles and broken up pavement everywhere, it doesn't look like, you know, terrible like it did. And part of that is fixing the area that you and I had talked about, where the boxes were.
Yeah.
So we ripped those boxes out, there was no salvaging that, we grabbed the one crab apple tree is gone.
Yeah, that was just one dead, yeah.
And the other one we grabbed and we planted it. You know where the bell is, and then it comes to kind of
Yeah.
to the right side of it where the grass area ends, we planted it right there, it looks like it always was there.
Yeah, some of those bushes might come out because they're gonna develop that area, but that's actually, that would be a good spot for it.
I think it came out, it looked
Yeah.
pretty cool where it is.
Good, yeah. Great.
So we put that there, but we're gonna plant 2 other trees, like I said, in the locations where those boxes were, and then put granite boxes on each side of those trees to plant flowers. And then, we gotta dig up the area by the bathroom
Bathrooms and then around
and by
the
the
corner of
sign,
the lilac.
by the sign, right?
Yeah,
Not the lilacs, but the sign.
no, around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the lilac.
Yeah, and so we'll do that. I don't know how successful we'll be with getting rid of all those rows of agostas after seeing how they
Little sucker.
infiltrate that box, because I was just amazed at the amount. of roots.
Yeah, yes, it's not just cutting them out, you gotta dig them pretty hard. And they'll,
If you-
they'll
Will
still
they,
come.
will they fragmentate, will they grow off a fragment, just
Yeah,
a fiber?
yeah, but you just take, the first few years, you just have to stay on top of it.
And then knock them down?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I had a huge hedge in front of my house. It took a few years, but now they're gone. They're gone.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing there. We're working on Pearl Street right now. We're ripping the whole street out. And we need to, I have a list of people that have asked for trees, but we also probably need to relook at the app or maybe look at the street as a whole about where trees could go. So we've got the power line side where we'll put, what is it, the ironwood and the understory trees. But then we've got the other side, we can put tall trees, sweet trees. And then I had Doug Johnson look at all of the street trees on that road, and he's given me a report that talks about one tree I think had to be removed, and several have to be pruned up. So, because there's some old trees there, one of them was really bad. It was damaged by the storm. I don't know if you've seen that, it's all busted at the top. It's a big tree, but we're gonna probably take that one out. And then we just need to start planting trees and making sure that the location, we have a lot of locations on that app that we can go and plant trees on, I've been looking at trees that we planted. And it seems like a lot of them are doing pretty well. I was surprised that they're coming back. Some of them that weren't looking so good last year. And then there's some that are like late bloomers. It seems like the Kentucky coffee tree and the honey locust trees. They don't seem like they're blue leafed out or starting to bud out yet, but I think those are late bloomers.
They're legumes and they come out late.
Yeah, because I bought one personally, put it in Union, and I took care of it really well, and it's not coming out either. I know that tree's fine, so.
No, don't think it's dead.
Yeah, I didn't, but those Kentucky coffee trees, they don't look very friendly right now. They're like, they're just
What did you decide to do with Preston Hannaford? Did you?
No, we haven't done anything with that, so that we have to do something with that with the trees that we have. So we probably want to look at the tree list before everything gets gobbled up by people that want this and that. And decide what we want to put over there across from Hanford.
Yeah.
That'll be something that I can use some help with.
So your priorities are Pearl Street and across from Hannaford's.
Yeah, for,
Mapping, identifying.
yeah, for looking at spacing and tree type,
Okay.
particularly across from Hanford.
Yeah.
Because then I can just say, well, you know, that's what the conservation, conservation commission wanted that, so you can take it up with them. Gonna use that excuse for a couple things today, I'll tell you. Oh,
Yeah, exactly, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, so this kind of leads into the projects for 2023.
I'm sorry, I've had my hand raised. Could I, for a while? Before we move on.
Oh, I can't, literally could barely see that, we're looking in the corner, okay?
Oh, okay. Just because I'm sorry, I just think you might be moving on the agenda, and I had a question for David about the trees. Is that, okay, thank you.
Agenda, by the way, so just keep that in mind too.
I'm sorry, what?
We're about 25 minutes behind on our agenda.
Yes, absolutely. So this is not a conversational, personal question. This is actually business. So the business is that, as you may recall, recently BD emailed around a good question about how do we respond to people, like if we're at the Seafair or an event and they say, oh, I put my name down on a list that I was interested in a town tree, and what can they say to them? Because BD obviously doesn't have, insight into what tree's going in next. And then Brian Lightbody kindly replied and offered to set up some sort of tracking system, but I think that is what we already have in the ArcGIS.
Yeah.
And so the question is in a situation like BD's, or if I'm in an event and we're taking names of people interested in trees, first of all, BD and those of us who do that, are we getting those names that we take down to who? I mean, I'm happy to input them in ArcGIS, but we have to make sure they go into that system. And then David, if somebody says they've already signed up for a tree, and they're like, what's the status? Am I going to get a tree? How are you notifying people? Do we send them to you to ask if they're on your list or if they can have a tree this year? How do you want us to respond to people?
Well, I'm open to suggestions because the app is just basically something I'm using as a tool to say, okay, here's the locations, the green halo means that we've talked with the homeowner.
Right.
So these are the locations we're going to be looking at first.
Mhm.
And there's no rhyme or reason to which ones of those halo ones we pick. It's going to be more of is it an underwire tree or is it a big tree? And
Right.
the underwire trees are easier because we can hand dig. So that doesn't answer your question though. So maybe what we need is maybe like a short list of ones of where people are requesting trees, because then we can go to those first. As opposed to, the ones that people aren't asking about. I like to, if someone's interested, I want them to feel like they're being
I mean,
listened to.
It's time dated, is it not? It's time and dated, like.
Yeah, but we're not looking, when we look at that app, we're looking at the map and it's just a thing that, we're looking at the green halo and saying, that's a spot, we're gonna put one there.
If there's already a green halo, is there a way to flag it to add an additional note that they've asked about their tree, like.
Yellow with a red middle or something.
Right, I don't know.
I'm sure we could do that. I'm talking to Aaron. That would be like another thing he could do, but I'm sure he could make it so that there's a red mark on it or like a different color, or maybe the halo's red.
Or is it, I mean, I can't imagine that there's more than 5 to 10 people approaching us saying.
Just a list, maybe just
Right.
a list with the address. And then when I assign the tree to be planted, I can just go to the list first and say, okay, you guys, this tree, this is the tree, these are the trees we're gonna do first.
Right, so is that something, BD, do you feel like that helps where, like, let's say if we were at Seafair and 5 people came up to us and we're collecting names for trees and they said, well, I already signed up and I haven't heard anything, what's going on with my tree? We could take their name down separately and just email it to David and say, and we'll let them know, hey, we'll make sure that the town knows you're particularly interested. Is that a way?
I can keep a list on the side,
Yeah,
but I really would want you to put it in the app.
yes, right.
because
The idea
that-
is they were already in the app because they would have already
Oh.
given us their address at a
They're
past
already in
event,
it.
maybe?
Then I just need maybe a list so that I maybe put them to the top of the list of where we go first.
So you would work with a paper list that somebody provided for you.
If there's a list of 10 people that are asking, where's my tree, just give me the list of the people.
The people,
And the
I'm hearing
address.
from 2 people, so.
Oh, that's a pretty short
Yeah.
list.
But on the other hand, I'm very discouraged from asking people if they want trees, because there really isn't a route.
There isn't a route
There isn't a pathway.
to get a tree?
Yeah,
There's,
Sure there is.
no, there
Yeah.
is. We just put them in the app and then David shows up with the tree, right?
And there's a little green halo, they contact them and,
Yeah.
and that's, the little green halo comes up and.
Green Hill, I open it up, it says 49 Chestnut Street, talk to Jessica Beal, and she wants a tree, she prefer this kind, you're good to go, that's it. I already know, oh, I go,
how many do you have?
oh, a
A
lot,
lot.
yeah, I have plenty of halos,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have more halos than you have trees?
I didn't count that up, you know, to be honest with you, maybe that'd be a good exercise to list the
Hang on,
halos.
that's a good question, because that will honestly, sir, they'll say,
Yeah, we'll get to it this year,
if you're in the first 50 trees.
Yeah.
Or you're on the first 50 people, requests, you will get a tree this year.
right?
Or unless you're requesting a tree that's beyond,
But there's no date,
unless we.
there's no date on when people got on.
I don't need it though, if there's only 50 halos, that's 50 trees, everybody's gonna get a tree.
You
Yeah.
can see the date of when it was input into the system, if that became, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
we could prioritize.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's. It's probably, I mean, at this point, it's not gonna be like, some people have been waiting for 5 years. or
Yeah,
anything, but-
Right.
But you can, that data is available if it becomes an issue where people feel like they're
Well,
getting
I
cut
can
in
tell
line.
you that I'm not energized to ask people anymore.
Why not?
Why not?
Because I don't know what's happening, I mean, I live a lot right now. And you are trying to establish where, you could prioritize.
I'd have to just contact somebody that can put it in the app.
Yeah.
Like Samantha, this person called me at this address and she wants a tree.
Okay, so what if a
That's it.
person wants a tree
Yep.
and I'm not really feeling like doing it? Who do I send them to?
Anybody.
Me. I send them to me. I'll put it in the app gladly. It looks like there's less than 50 green halos without a check mark on the app. I'm looking at it right now. So it's not like, I don't think there's so many more tree candidates than there are trees.
If it's got a check mark, it means it's been planted.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we don't have to go on forever about this. I don't want Brian to waste his time creating a system that's not needed because it's already being, right?
Yeah.
No,
It was nice of him to offer, but I just, if
Yeah.
it is being tracked through the app,
that's
and
the
it's
whole
just a
idea.
matter of if people express interest a second time or they follow up with you, BD, and they're like, I said I wanted a tree and I haven't seen a tree. If you just let me or David know that you've heard from that person, then, and I would let David know, or just, you can tell him directly, then
Mhm.
he'll put them to the top of the list to make sure that they get a tree sooner. And you can say, I'll let the town know they're doing trees soon. I don't know. When are you planting?
We're gonna be planting between now and the end of fall,
Yeah.
and we do it, we don't just go out and plant all the trees, tree planting is a thing that we do in between tasks. So that's when we do it. So we're gonna be probably planting in between now and the end of fall, to be honest with you. Um,
If they happen to think that they have a choice about a tree, what do we
They
say?
can put it in the notes. I put in the notes and then I look at the notes, it's all there. I
Okay,
don't
so
have to
the
mess with it.
notes are still okay.
The notes are in the app.
In the app, yeah.
That's
And
legit.
I don't think we can make any promises, right, about what tree they'll get, but certainly letting you know, yeah.
Yeah.
The two choices are street tree and underwire tree. Those are the choices.
Yeah.
And then they can't go and just pick their own tree.
Yeah, well, there's a huge preference for fall color and of course, sugar maples, but you know that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of those. You know, if they want a sugar maple, you can put in, we have the list. You can just look at the list and say, well, yeah, we can put in a sugar maple, and if we have it, we'll give it to them, and if not, we'll put something that's close to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing with that, I heard somebody maybe came into the town office, this is just a quick tree related thing that, confusion with the garden club program and, what we had sort of been telling people is that the garden club program is, good for people who want to plant a tree that is outside of the right of way.
Absolutely.
So that's like the avenue for them.
Yep.
And, so,
And at a
Maybe a-
lower cost that, you know, than.
right, it's
like
that cost
otherwise
sharing,
be.
Right, to
Program
buy
and-
themselves a little.
Yep, exactly.
so that the garden club too can continue to have something that's, I mean, it is a
Oh, no,
great thing that's
it's
been
great.
going on for a
Yeah.
long time, and it can provide something different than what's available for free with the towns.
Yeah, no, and it's an absolute win-win from my perspective. It's just, you know, increasing the number of trees on the landscape, so it's good. So with all of these things going on and limited number of people on the committee, I wanted to know, again, and I got some great feedback with Pearl Street and Hannaford, being kind of high priority areas. One thing I put on for projects discussion is, should we consider, just so that we get some of this stuff done, where we can state, you know, what we're making progress on the street tier app or the stormwater app or other projects that we're doing. Should we pick a date and time? It could, whether we do it at the same date and time, or if we just pick what's available that particular up and coming month at the, you know, said meeting. And if it's an hour or 3, but whoever's got the time of the group to come and meet, and then we can, like, one can walk up one section of Pearl Street while the other's walking down the other section, but we're all out there, and then boom, we populated like a whole section of the street tree app, and, you know, and again, within a day.
I can work on it.
Everything
I'm logged out of the app. I can't get back in, but.
I just sent it back. I sent it to you. Yeah.
But I'm happy to, like, you know, kind of help, like, kind of, you know, sort of through us, sort of cheerlead and or coordinate a date. To try to get together and, you know, and do that. And same thing with the stormwater. And then if you tell us that, I feel like these are the 2 areas that Dave is saying need to be done sooner than later. That's, you know,
Pearl Street will be towards the end of the season. There'll be a fall planning, most probably.
yeah, but we can certainly get
But
Hannaford.
Hannaford, we can do early.
And then are there stormwater locations? Because again, I'm thinking, it's not that we couldn't go out and do this on our own by ourselves or in smaller groups, but like if we try to coordinate a little bit of an effort to bang some certain sections, neighborhood streets, et cetera, out, are there certain places that you're really needing some more information from the stormwater side?
I mean,
as
I haven't thought about that too much. I mean, we're
That's
putting
okay.
in new stormwater in on Pearl Street, so we're gonna be updating that there.
well? Mhm.
It's one of those things, it's almost like you have to investigate and like look and you just discover things. You'll notice, you don't know what you don't know, right? It's that kind of situation.
Are there neighborhoods that you have less information on, or parts of town or whatever that you have less information on with the stormwater?
It's,
It's kind of like that, if you don't know.
Don't know.
You really don't.
You just don't know.
You should make a habit of incorporating it into your life as you travel around town to be saying, oh, is this storm drain here?
I'm finished if I'm out there.
Yeah.
you know, if you see something coming out of a pipe somewhere, look at your app and say, oh, there's a pipe here. You know what I mean? That's how we find this stuff.
Mhm.
Like we just found one on Park Street where they drilled a hole to put a telephone pole
Oh, God.
and they hit a pipe, which is a drainage pipe that comes from Curtis Avenue, it looks like, or somebody put in, we don't even know, it's nothing that's on the app. And then the next day I went over to check on it and they had decided to take the telephone pole and put it from the side of the sidewalk where they drilled through the pipe, put it in the middle of the sidewalk. So I got into an argument with them about, you have to take this out of the sidewalk and put it back over here to the right of the pipe, but I mean, you didn't need to know all that, but that's kind of how it goes, you know.
Rebecca, I think it's an excellent suggestion to have a monthly field session, as long as we're able to do some research with David or amongst our group in advance to figure out what we're going to do that day. Because I am the type of person that I wish I could be like Allison and just think of it because I'm out walking. But I really, unless there's some sort of event that's happening, I've completely forgot about stormwater for the past month, right? And since our last meeting, and I had intended to walk Bayview, et cetera. But if we were getting together as a group, I would definitely be thinking about it, engaged, happy to do it. It's just different people's, brains do things in different ways. So I like the idea of getting, and if invasives would be fun to go look at, doing some sort of beach cleanup at Lake Beach, or walking, like Allison was suggesting walking along the shoreline to see how far we can get, at low tide. I think that's a great idea.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I could set a time right now to do the stormwater walk. We could walk along the shoreline and document all the outfalls.
After a bunch of rain is a good time to do it, like
Anytime next
Tuesday.
week, because it's gonna rain all.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, except for Monday, but like,
Monday's gonna rain like crazy.
Yeah, then no,
We could go out and
then Monday.
You could go, actually, you go like the day after and it would still be coming out, you know what I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then it would be raining when you're doing it.
You gotta go out in the rain sometime.
So I don't know if anybody is available, at least just to get the ball rolling or get started, but Monday, if it's fully rain, if it's not raining, I have other obligations, but if it's actually raining, then I like go on, that's a good story.
Go, that's the spirit.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were saying the opposite.
No, I'm available.
In the rain. Okay.
I mean, I have rain boots, and I'm only busy at 11 a.m. on Monday in that hour. So I would be open to it if you guys want to do something.
I just have to do a lunch with my dad.
So okay, like 9 to 11 or 9 to
Yeah.
10?
9 a.m. would be good.
I mean, even if we can't all go, that's fine, but like, even if a few of us, we can't keep making a little leap forward, because I feel like otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, stretch, okay,
Exactly.
9 to 10, 30, 11, we'll see.
Where do we want to meet? Lake Beach?
Lake Beach probably makes sense.
I don't know what the tide's gonna be, but
I don't.
Oh, right.
Better look at the tide first.
High tide,
well, we can always.
We can
get
meet
the tide
there.
time thing.
What do you think there?
you need a canoe.
Yeah, we can, maybe if there's something exciting happening, like flooding somewhere, then
Hold
we'll
on here,
Then
I'll look up the
go
tides.
there,
US can't, go to US Harbor.
but we may actually, because it's rain, the whole point, we're gonna be doing it. Well, we can decide then, but should we meet at Lake Beach and then?
Mhm.
Date?
Sounds good.
Which date?
The first.
So,
Sure, yes. It comes up in my phone, late, we're on the beach.
so what's the date of, is that gonna be
First.
first?
9.
Are you looking at the tides, David?
Looking at the high tide is at 8:43.
Hmm. Okay, so we'll do more of
AM.
a inland,
We'll do Baker Street and up the side streets. and
We can
back
see
around
how-
Chestnut and-
Well, low tide's 2:28, just for the record.
hmm,
Move it up to the after lunch. For anybody?
What's that?
Another day for me.
there's no, the outfalls was just something I was.
We'll get them another day.
It's nicer to walk along the beach when it's not raining, when it's not slippery, like on all those rocks and stuff.
Right.
You should have sticks.
In low time.
not to bog you down with a lot of projects, but we have the Mechanic Street Rain Garden on Oak Street that we have talked about.
Yeah, but we can talk about that as a
Mechanic Street,
different
Rain Garden on Oak Street.
The Mechanic and Oak Street corner,
corner.
where those people have that drainage
Where
area
Messi lives.
across the street.
Yeah,
Oh, that's, you really need to plant a tree there. Have you asked him? It's a really clever tree.
No, but we'll be able to talk about it when we, because you talked to them, right?
Oh, you did, oh.
I talked to the
The lady,
retired teacher next door,
Yeah.
whose name is escaping me at the moment,
but
but I
there,
have it on my.
and that was like a perfect kind of rain garden spot.
Mhm.
And then there
But I
was,
gotta regroup with both of the homeowners.
right, but I think they both really want to do it.
They were in, they
Yeah.
were definitely in, but I
Yeah.
think that's more of a later, we gotta dry things out, we're never gonna get anything in to dig.
I agree, that's a dry weather.
So we'll do that as a,
But that's another one of your,
yep, but that we can do in the late summer, early fall.
then we got the species planning over there on Atlantic Ave.
Mhm. And that would be great if we get, I haven't heard from you or, Audrey about the, funding, for getting plants procured, like you said, it was coming out of a separate funding pool and.
Oh, no, we haven't, money
I
so
should have had to got the green light to buy it to the district.
from the vines, for the cutting of the trees down.
Well, that doesn't go into its own special fund, though, so you have
I'll figure that,
But
yeah.
that's another project.
we need to make sure those
For,
people are
for,
mowing.
for May, at least for early May, let's do some stormwater tracking and then we'll get another project, another date on. So, but if we're in favor of that, we can pick a date and time at each meeting to just, let's pick something and kind of move.
In
it
May,
forward.
we'll start, we're putting a lot of time into the template land, so,
And you're got a lot of stuff.
but I'm tired now.
You retired?
Officially
Oh,
retired?
wow.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
After my calendar is like. oh, I got a great
I know, I was gonna say, you can be so busy when you keep using it. Awesome, all right, so we'll keep that going, and the first, working group date is Monday morning.
Yay. Dave, do you have any updates on the watershed sign?
I was told to just put them up. By the code enforcement officer, I believe.
Okay, so they already made?
No, so I gotta order them, right?
Yeah. they do want
And I think I got a final
Yeah.
rendition of it,
You did send it.
Yeah.
yeah.
In the,
All right, I was thinking of that at the beginning.
In the
meeting.
McGonagall River
I
sign,
forget
that
what
too,
it's
right?
called. What, the McGonagall River sign, right, yeah,
Oh, great.
yeah, then we'll put those up. I think we have a location too where they all went,
that was ideas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Seafair, are we clear? We're making progress on the Seafair table. We're gonna be Camden Conservation Commission and Rockport Conservation Commission were invited by Barbara Lawrence to participate at the Seafair and do some outreach and Brian and Pamela volunteered to be there. And I think that this, what was the, I think that I left it at that from my end.
They should really be combining Arbor Day with that event.
Can't, because it's June
second.
June, and you have to do it in May.
Yeah.
So there is actually not a law about that.
They won't,
That's,
they won't count it as a
Really?
tree city.
It has, the Tree
Yeah.
City situation thing has
is that true, Samantha?
third week in May.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm trying to looking at the actual.
It's a rigid organization.
We, did we access the login? Allison, I remember that we got, we had a communication with them, but then we were gonna take it, I don't.
Yeah, Samantha spent some time looking at over some of the details and reaching out to them, and they got right back to her about a login.
Yeah, and I forwarded it along to, you have it, Allison, and I think also Rebecca, you have it, but I was told Nancy's handling it for this year, and so I just
Is that
didn't.
true?
Nancy has arranged it,
well, hold on,
right?
Nancy's arranged what?
Arbor Day, an Arbor Day.
I'm working with Nancy on arranging Arbor Day.
Right.
It's gonna be held on the corner tentatively in the corner of Free Street and Pearl Street to celebrate the replanting of Pearl Street.
Right.
I've sent in the proclamation to the select board, and I think it's the 19th. I was just checking that.
May 19?
Saturday, the 19th is the state Arbor Day,
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
which is gonna be in Augusta.
I mean, it's just this idea that you can do everything is like, I don't understand how it happened that it went from, we were gonna plan it to. No,
Nancy-
Nancy just is gonna work with you.
Nancy called me and said, she's just basically leaving it up to me to plan it, but you guys can take all the ownership of it.
I mean, it's just like Nancy had declared that she didn't think the Conservation Commission was interested enough. But
She came here with.
I don't think that she really gave anybody a chance
And you better do
to,
it quick.
Yeah.
before.
I think we kind of felt like we were on a left foot in terms of planning it and not really understanding all the ins and outs and, you know.
It was pretty.
And so, or maybe we should just, you know, defer it until next year.
I-
What we were thinking, and then I
There
think,
was a very wobbly response, or no, not enough response.
From the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Well,
And
we
I don't
didn't,
think
we
that
didn't know
that's
you were gonna
fair
be
at
running this.
all.
That's
No.
all.
The presentation that she gave touched on everything from Tree City to
Tree
every
City.
grievance ever.
Tree
Right.
City.
But and some of the, there are a few things in the Tree City requirements that are actually different from Nancy's requirements.
Yeah, she had a very vague 5-bullet list there, and that's not actually what you do on the website to submit your application. And I think the issue with the presentation is just the ask was unclear, and I kept trying to find out what the ask was, because I'm happy to participate in it, but every time I say I'll participate in it, then it's like, no, Nancy's doing that. And so I don't know, are we doing it next year or
No, we're doing
I
it
didn't know
next
what she wanted from us, and I was happy to do it. It just wasn't clear. I just heard a lot of negative history.
Right, I
too.
mean, it wasn't, I think we needed to have talked about it as a group after her presentation to
That's
say,
what was
okay,
missing.
what are we gonna do? But it was
Yeah.
so much longer, I think, than, it was an opportunity for Nancy to be able to kind of do a handover of downloading what she felt was important for us to know. And then we need to take that and say, okay, which of these things will continue in the same way, which, but I think Arbor Day, it's not really that hard to
No.
No,
plan and.
So you have to do a proclamation. Select board does a proclamation of,
Declaring a certain day,
Declaring a
Arbor
certain
Day,
day, Arbor
which
Day.
often does not correspond with the state day.
which and I looked that up, and the reason is because in our area, our planting season's later. That's really the reason. But so I wrote the letter to Janice asking her to put on the select board agenda to proclaim May 20th at 1 p.m. The celebration of Arbor Day, and the celebration will be at the Pearl Street location to kick off the re-treeing of Pearl Street.
Right.
So 1 p.m. on the 20th is the date. I think all that we need to do at this point is we need to probably put out some invitations or some type of notification to the general public that that's gonna happen. So maybe networking, talking about that. I can send this email that I sent to Janice to everybody, so you have my wording.
great.
So I can help, you could help with letting people know
Yeah,
that that's the day, and maybe get people to turn out there. The only other thing that we did last year was, we set up a table and I had we put up a banner, we had a few.
snacks or,
snacks and stuff, right? And then I think that maybe somebody could speak, to talk about Arbor Day. Maybe we need to let the press know about this. So those are all things that if people want to help with that, they could do that, and I wouldn't have to do that piece of it.
We could print off a big map of the town and tell people that wanted to come and mark down where they wanted a tree or something, could do that. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It could be a
I
sign
feel
up.
like if you wanna do something,
You don't sign up for sure, yeah.
you don't have to follow exactly. It's been different in different
Yeah.
years, and Nancy's been the one that comes up with the programming, but it doesn't all have to be you know,
Exactly. that
exactly
way.
as she's done it before. In some years it's been better and in some years last year was a little bit like not as much, not as many people.
Oh, I thought it was huge compared to some.
You've probably
years.
seen some really small ones.
So I'm gonna put the table up and I'll get the snacks.
Maybe
You guys
research
take,
what other communities
you
do.
guys can, if you guys can handle the rest of it, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So if there's things that you want to add to the celebration, like sign up, I think is a good idea.
Street tree sign up and making that part of the press release.
Samantha, if you could think of anything,
Well, I think if anybody else could put together a press release and we could use your language for that.
Pieces are in the notebook that Nancy dropped off.
I
at
have-
the beginning of the meeting, and do you have?
I have the one I sent to the select board,
And all I would say
That's
is if
different
it's,
from a press release, isn't it?
not press release, this is the proclamation.
yeah, so we can put
press
the
release.
proclamation into the press release
Yeah.
with the representative from the conservation
Yeah.
commission, blah, 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 et cetera. Some people, people will be there and
Right.
they'll sign up and blah, blah, blah.
And then
Let's
this,
scan all that. Can somebody scan all that and make that all digital? Maybe, or we could ask Janice to do it. That's the problem.
Paper, it's not gonna scan.
Because
very
if we
well.
could turn that into an updated press release with the proclamation, I would be happy to circulate it to the media and to, that we would share it with the Wild Ones group and the Garden Club. And I don't know how to make sure the Pearl Street people know about it, but you would probably, if you can communicate that.
Facebook Pearl Street, there's a,
Is it really?
yeah, there's a Facebook
cool.
Pearl Street neighborhood
Perfect.
webpage.
Yeah, so we want to, we can actually create an event in Facebook and share it to people that we know. Maybe
And we
they
were
could,
gonna-
well, I'm happy to help with that. We don't have a Camden Conservation Commission group Facebook page, so we couldn't create the event, but if I don't know if there was a way to get somebody from the Pearl Street group to create an event and I could help share it.
Well, if we
Or-
share our press release or proclamation with some
Yeah,
specific bulletin, Camden Conservation Commission invites, the Pearl Street neighborhood as well as, its. neighborhood
area
at
plant
large.
lovers or something like that. Yeah.
Sign up for street trees,
Mhm.
Get some native and invasive plant, I can bring a box of invasive plant information, native plant.
That would be good. Yeah. How about the lady from the Forest Service that you had, that was at the,
Which one?
That's a
Alyssa?
lot person.
there was a, no, the one that was at the amphitheater.
I don't
We
Oh,
know.
have-
I liked her. Yeah, she was at the
Yeah.
Seafair, right?
Yeah, yep.
Was it
Yeah.
Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to have her there, maybe, Maybe she'd bring a few pine trees like she did last time, few spruce trees.
Well, yeah, I guess. I always
remember-
don't want people to think that the pine tree goes on the street. but-
Yeah. So is it possible that somebody else could turn that old document into a new document, a new updated press release and send it to me? Because I'm happy to work on circulating it.
So, she's,
Allison's
Allison's
scanning the
as
book.
we speak, and we'll.
Oh,
send it
great.
out electronically. Yep.
Yeah, so I think last year's was pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember driving by it because I was working, but there was a lot of people there and
Yeah,
I knew what was going on.
maybe having Vicky Dudera, we want to invite. her
Oh,
again.
right. Yeah.
That's another one, and then, I think we talked a little, what we can talk about in this one is what we did. We could probably talk a little bit about, the application and how many trees we actually planted and the efforts that we made, and I'll probably talk about that piece, and if anybody else wants to speak and talk about our goals or our objectives, that would be good. So you can think about that. Is there anything else that would be nice to have at that you can think of, Beatty?
I just can't see very well, I'm sorry.
If you come here,
Yeah, I can hear, well, I've got things in my ears now, so I can hear far too. I'm not discouraged about what the town's doing. I just can't pick it, I can't keep it, I can't keep doing it.
that's all right, we can carry it on, we can talk about this.
Yep.
This will be a good thing to talk about, maybe this person can.
Have somebody from the.
Yeah, that would be another thing we could have.
Yeah.
But
I just read the detailed requirements on having Arbor Day for Tree City on the Arbor Day website, and it does not specify it has to be in the exact month or on any exact date. So I'll send you the actual language for it just so everyone can see it. It's on the Tree City standards, which is the Arbor Day organization. This is through their website.
Okay.
well, we've already put it on the select board for the date and everything, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we need to change it. I'm just saying for future reference. For example, this is a conception we have about how things have to be that may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Okay.
Ooh. And the other thing is, it's gonna be, we were gonna choose the first house on Pearl Street, which I'm gonna talk to the homeowner about that, so maybe we can actually plant a tree right there.
Yeah, well, that would be great.
That was the other thing.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, so what, the follow-up here is some specific emails and tightening up of activity and outline, and it doesn't need to be a long thing, it doesn't need to be a huge event, but it should be formalized and timed, kind of.
You're the taskmaster,
Well, here's the problem is I am way overextended for May, and so I've already absolved myself of this before, and I feel like I'm getting looped back into this, and I'm gonna politely shove it.
so who wants to be the person to make sure we're gonna do
Yeah.
these things?
Because, I will weigh in.
Samantha?
Email, but it's
I don't know what that even means. Like I said, I'm happy to circulate a press release to everyone. Is there anyone else that could turn the old document into an updated press release?
We're doing it right
The
now.
press release itself is pretty, just.
I'll send what I sent to the select board, but we just talked
Okay.
about a bunch of things. Can you just kind of
Do
make
all
sure-
of them? I don't know. I mean, aside from reaching out to people like Vicky Dudera, like that, I understand, but what are am I getting snacks for the table? No, right?
I'm taking care of that. I'm taking care of the table, but we want to make sure that we contact the Wild Ones group. to
Yeah.
see if
Oh,
they-
yeah. I'm happy to do all that. I just
Yeah.
need something to
Or
send
you
them
can just
and
designate Or ask somebody else to do it. Just let's not lose the thoughts of what we're gonna do.
I will reach out to everybody. And if you think of somebody that we haven't talked about today, just email
Okay.
me and say, hey, can you also send the thing to them? And I'm not going to be like, I'm just going to send them the information and say, hey, we'd love to have you at this event that's coming up. Here's the press release or something, nice, but not too detailed.
Yep. Oh, that sounds good.
So the follow-up is, we'll get a follow-up email with the electronic version of the Tree City packet that is being downloaded now. We'll make a list of, suggestions or priorities of, or tasks, like David's doing the table and snacks, and
Snacks, yeah.
Samantha's doing this, and, again, if you want me to reach out to somebody, if something, it's a call or an email kind of thing, I'm okay with a quick turnaround, but like a whole planning and show up for like another thing in May is just.
No, I mean, I'm gonna take care of the logistics of the physical setting up of everything. I'm gonna dig a hole, I'm gonna put a tree there, I'm gonna put a pile of dirt there. You guys can put the tree in the hole and maybe bury it, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
You guys will be the ribbon cutters,
okay, all right.
Great.
So, I'm supposed to be in another meeting right now, and it's past 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna be super conscientious about what I'd like to do is essentially table, like the other items of business that were on the table. I can update you about the coastal communities working group, I can update you about at the next meeting, there's really nothing, right, nothing time sensitive. I do want to acknowledge before we officially adjourn, and thank Will for his time on the Conservation Commission, and to acknowledge the efforts and the energy that he put in to date, and so that it's clear that I, both personally and especially publicly state you appreciate his efforts. Wish him the best.
I agree. This is a huge loss. I'm very disappointed that he's not able to be with us now.
Yeah, so.
With us.
Of course, some energies into other avenues, and so I just want to make sure that we honor the time that he served. And our next meeting is, we'll state it now for public record. Our next meeting is May, what was it? Supposed to be the 24th because it's the 4th or the last.
I have the 24th, but I don't know.
So I can't do the 24th. I'm committed. I can do the last, but I can't.
The 31st, I can do the 31st.
I cannot do the 24th.
Why don't you move it to the 31st?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Good.
So the next meeting will be May 31st from 12 to 2 here. I will go check with Janice right now before I run to my next meeting. I'm already late.
I'll make one.
Thank you.
Thank
May
you.
22? May 22?
No, 31st, 31st.
May
May
30, May
31st.
31, yeah. Last day of the
12
month.
to 2.
Okay.
Right, I was gonna send everybody a scan.
Thank you,
of this.
Allison.
Oh, thank you.
Dave, what are you talking about?
I looked at your tree, though.
I know. But you're talking about replanting something. So.
I promise Nancy that I tell people that we're not on the
That's not gonna be.
project canopy list for tree city because of missing 2
Oh,
years.
That's
So
why.
Yeah,
So
so
what's that
she
look like?
wanted to make
The
sure.
pumpkin's a little bit later than others. I was thinking to do it hopefully. like-
Well, let me
Like,
She did
so
it for
I
years.
was thinking, do like alignment, which was so much.